I would like to hear your opinions about, well, first of all, if you agree with this kind of assessment, and then what are your proposals? We already have two hands rising, one from Vito and one from Bertuzza. Stefano Bertuzza, we let as a host, we let Stefano Bertuzza first. No, I think.
Thank you. I take your provocative question, and it's a tough nut to crack, for sure. But my answer would be, or my point of discussion would be, it's a system problem. So what seems to be lacking is a strategic planning. And I agree with Napoleone that the system is not replicable. I mean, you've been very understated and very kind, but Genentech is a very, very, very unique experience that has essentially made of basic science, a whole culture of completely changing the paradigm of how drug discovery is done, moving from brute force of screening compounds to starting instead from the biology and understanding what the mechanisms are and really delivering really innovative drugs. And this takes a lot to do. And I would like to quote one study from the National Academy of Sciences. It's called by two economists, Jerry and Marie Thursby at Georgia Tech. It's called Here or There. They interviewed everywhere, all around the world, CEOs from multinational drug industry involved in biotech in general, asking, what are the key criteria that you use to make decision of where to put your R&D plans? And the number one answer was proximity to universities, where you can get it. It's not IP protection. I mean, that's a component. There's many other, but proximity to innovators, proximity to centers of basic science, and that was off the chart. So what I think it's missing in Italy is, I'm not an expert, I mean, I left Italy a long time ago, but seems from looking at it from the United States that it's missing that sense of a plan, of a strategic plan, and say, what is it that we want to focus our resources on? I mean, I really like your example of what is innovation, because if you think about it, we put a man on the moon before we put wheels on suitcases. And I would argue that they're both very important innovations. So innovation can come from many different ways and can be very fundamental. It's just the culture, just the system, that you need to see, because innovation takes a life of its own. And so I think that is very important. So I want to conclude just with one question. So to me, it's a system problem, it's a strategic planning at a central level that unless you do that, it won't work on its own, because research is a public good, and if you don't get that, it doesn't happen. And I have a question for Luigi Zingales, if you want to answer is, do you think that the national debt has had an effect on those data that you just showed us? The fact that there's always been sort of catching up for Italy, and so never really that sense of broad planning because the resources were not there. And that's a concern that I have for the United States right now, which is actually, for the first time ever, we have cut by 5.5% biomedical research budget from the government. Never happened before, while China is increasing 10% and Germany 5% and so on and so forth. So I wonder whether there is a connection there.
Can we have Professor Campese before you?
Absolutely.
Perhaps a couple more.
Absolutely.
I hear two different messages from Zappacosta and from you in terms of innovation. Luigi is saying innovation is not really the problem. He put it last in his list. You're saying it's a problem of R&D, productivity. R&D is one of the major problems. We are here believing in another concept, and that is that innovation, research leading to innovation, is really the basis to progress and probably improving the situation in Italy. Could you clarify that apparent contradiction? I think in Italy there is too much complacency in saying we are intelligent, we are smart, we are good, we are innovative, we are creative, Well, where is all of this? I mean, there is part of it, but where is all of this? You look at the mathematics, Italians are the worst among 26 countries. You look at ability to read, and they are close to the last. Something is not functioning right. The chemical industry in Italy that used to be one of the prime ministers is dead. The pharmaceutical industry in Italy is dead. Nuclear industry in Italy is dead. And I hear there is too much innovation. Really doesn't jive well with what we see in the scenario in Italy. I would really like some clarification.
Any other question, please? Or comment, I mean, not necessarily questions, but you have to take notes because most of the questions are there. You will have to answer.
Open? Yeah. Hi. I came in 1977, and I work in Italy as well here. So I know very well the system from my perspective of work in the field of medicine, since I'm a physician. What I observe in Italy of 34 years ago is still there, which I think the major problem, cultural problem, is that we still work in Italy with the nepotism instead of meritorium. Our way to hire people is through knowing each other versus how valuable is the person. And also one thing is lacking in Italy is the yearly evaluation, which really create a completely different cultural work.
Thank you. And the gentleman there. Sorry, I cannot read your name from that distance.
Just a small comment. I'm sure there's not one solution to one problem. There are many altogether. I've lived in the university in Italy, and I live in the university in the United States, and I have children growing in the United States. And I see in Italy you are not trained to think out of the box. You're not trained to do things that are not just a standard. You have examples, you have inspiration by somebody, but it's just episodes that can happen. I see my children here in the United States that are stimulated to think out of the box, to do things actually beyond what they are just expected to be in a normal school. And that requires discipline and training, not just a good idea. I think creativity is good, but it's not enough, and the discipline and the training that is in the United States requires probably decades to be developed in Italy.
I suggest that at this point we leave at least the first two questions for Professor Zingales. I would like myself to answer to the third one about nepotism, and perhaps one of you would like to answer to the last one.
I need to answer Vito first, because it seems that I was here saying that we innovate too much in Italy. Let's stop all this innovation in Italy that is killing us. You know, I didn't say that. You are a doctor, so I mean, my image is the one of a poor guy who comes to the hospital and he has a broken leg, but then you realize that he also has, a problem inside, and it's a mess. And well, yeah, the leg is okay. It's a problem, and it would be better if he wasn't there, and you can fix it. But the big problem is inside. So I mean, that's what I meant. Is that we could do better with innovation, but it's not what is killing us. And just another two very, very quick comments. You're talking about the strategic problem, lack of a strategic vision. I think we are one step behind. It's even worse than what you think, because I've been to meetings, because the Z we sat together in one of these meetings. And what was absolutely crazy is that the higher up, the ministers, and maybe we can say those were ministers of the previous government, and so now everything has changed maybe, but the previous high position people did not even acknowledge that there was a problem. If someone in the audience would criticize Italy, they would somehow say, no, I mean, absolutely, we are the best. So that's, if we don't accept that there is a problem, then, And talking about the university that the other gentleman was mentioning, my son, who obviously was born in the US and studied there, came here. All my children actually have been abroad, but the two of them have been in Italy. And one of them was telling me that the problem with university, yeah, sure, it's true. You also noticed what you mentioned, that there was a lot of, basically you have to learn exactly how to answer certain question, and it doesn't open up the mind. But what struck him a lot more than that was that the professor would come in, teach for 1 hour, and then poor guy, he had to leave to go and get a cup of coffee because he couldn't really carry on 2 hours. So after 15 minutes for coffee, and then he would come back. What is that in terms of respect for the time of teaching? So, and that to me is part of that basic problem, which everything which is mentioned here goes back to the lack of seriousness, the lack of when I travel from Pescara to Milano, 55 minutes, and so there are three people, the three hostesses, but actually typically are men, are there. They give biscotti, salatini, acqua, aranciata, and so it's a lot of work. And then in the last 20 minutes, they have to close down. They have to close the curtain and rest because they are destroyed after 20 minutes of work. And unfortunately, it's typical of Alitalia service, and unfortunately, it's typical of Italian working for the government or similar to organizations which are assimilated to the government like Alitalia. And that's a big problem. Sorry.
Pierluigi, we all like very much your quotation, but I suggest that we try, at least for the next 20 minutes, to stay away from anecdotal evidence of how bad is the Italian system.
I'm not a researcher like him. He does data. I have little facts.
We all
with regard to what Francesco was saying about potential short-termism created by the large level of debt, I think is an intriguing possibility. In Italy, I think, as Pierluigi was saying, is a bit worse because I always quote the following fact, which is pretty shocking. As a result of joining the euro, we had a huge dividend given by the fact that the interest rate went down. So if, as a country, just use that dividend to reduce the level of debt, so not reduce any expenditure in real terms, simply not increase it, and use the savings to pay down the debt, today the debt to GDP would be 80%. Okay, so I don't, instead of 130, sorry, I gave for granted that you knew it, but so that's a dramatic difference. It's a different, 80% would be lower than what is in Germany. So that would be like an outstanding situation. So I think that shows that it's not just, maybe for the United States that's a problem. I think we have a much deeper problem than the United States.
But you can always join the euro.
No, let me say two other things. One is answering to Vito. I think that I'm not in contradiction with what Pierluigi is saying. I'm not saying that bureaucracy is not a problem. I'm trying to explain why is more a problem today than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And I think that the secret is the combination of technology with innovation makes it particularly difficult. So you get a huge advantage in using IT technology, but then if you have to print the form in the way the minister is telling that you print them, and they're not compatible with their software, you lose a lot of that innovation advantage because of that. And so that makes it more difficult for us to make a step. But I want to throw two ideas because correctly we said we are here bitching and moaning about Italy, but that's not the purpose of this meeting. The purpose of the meeting is what we can do to change Italy. And I think that I am starting to do two things, and I invite all of you to join forces or try to find alternative things, etc. But one is very simple, is to try to actually, very simple but very complex, is to try slowly to change the culture at the younger generation. Just all the generations are lost. They're not going to change. Our hope is to change people early on. And so what I've been doing is now when I go to Italy, I try to go in high schools and give talks in high schools. And it's very interesting both ways. I learned a lot from what Italian high schools are about, and hopefully they learn something about the opportunities and a different way of thinking about. And I cannot tell any anecdote, but later, if you want, I'll tell you an interesting anecdote I had in one of the schools. The second one, which is much more important, and I think as an individual we cannot do it, but as sort of ISNAF we might think about doing, is the following. Now, let's imagine that we get lucky and all of a sudden we have a leader that wants to change Italy. Do we have a program of how Italy is to be changed? And the answer is no. So I think that what we should do as ISNAF is trying to elaborate what are the things that we can do to change Italy. And as was said before, feasible thing. Because transforming the University of Arcavacata into Harvard is not going to happen. And if we dedicate resources to that, we are wasting money. However, there are enormous opportunities. I got insulted by a lot of scientists, so probably this is going to be another time, because I said, look, in Italy, it makes more sense to invest in tourism than in biotechnology. But I think the answer is we're not going to produce a next Genentech. On the other hand, we are the most beautiful country on the face of Earth, and we don't exploit this enough. France has twice as many tourists per year than Italy. And that hurts, not only because we're better than the French, but it's because sort of Italy has gigantically more opportunities. It says you come to Washington and you see sort of the Jefferson Memorial, but how many people know that that's a copy of the Rotonda in Palladio in Vicenza, that, by the way, is not even visitable every day of the year at every hour. So in order to go, and there's not even a parking lot in front of that place. That should be a major resort location. Every American should go and visit the Palladian real things in Veneto. They don't even have a parking lot in front of it, not to mention somebody that sells some reproduction. Anyway, I stop there.
Thank you. I think there is another. Oh, I think that, sorry, before that, I think we owe an answer to your question or to your comment about nepotism. And I'd take the opportunity to say that 3 years ago, I think, we were at the Bocconi University, at your alma mater, presenting a proposal for the reform of the Italian university. Was it 3 or 4 years ago, Vito?
Well, it was 4 years, 3-4 years ago. But then there was a follow-up to that. We were invited by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and MIUR to rehash that document, and Mario Sazzaposto-Zier, myself, another group of individuals worked the entire summer to put together a document of about 110 pages, very comprehensive document that addresses your point on how to restructure university and the research in Italy. It's a very comprehensive document. When the government changed, we haven't got any answer to that document, all right? So that's where we are.
Just to say that this.
Among those things, issues such as nepotism,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, nepotism was one of the top 3 or 4 priorities, of course. But we do have some advantages in that. For instance, now the Ministry of Health is giving us the assignment to select doctors for positions. So something is in fact happening, and we are doing a little bit of that.
So can I say one thing about nepotism? Because when I wrote my book on Captains for the People, and I was mentioning the fact that in Italy, the emergency room doctors are chosen based on political affiliation, the editor did not believe it. Said, are you sure about that? Can you please check? Can you provide me facts? Because he couldn't believe. And so I would say something that, as many of the things I say makes me unpopular, but I think is correct. It says the reason why there is so much nepotism in Italy is a cultural tradition that goes back to, I'm sorry to say, the Catholic Church. Why? The reason why nepotism was invented in Rome in the Catholic Church is because the Catholic Church had a monopoly. And if you were trying to differentiate yourself and say things slightly different, you were burned alive, like Giordano Bruno proved in Campo dei Fiori. Why am I saying this? Now, the church has changed, and I love the new pope, so I'm not against the church. I'm just saying, historically, there is a very strong association between monopoly and corruption and nepotism. Why? Because if you are a Protestant church in the United States, you're never going to appoint an idiot at the head of your parish, because there is competition. And if you appoint an idiot, the loyal customers disappear because it's an idiot. In Italy, in the Catholic Church, there was no alternative, so you had to go there. You can appoint your idiot. And that has remained in the culture, and that's the reason why Italy is so averse to competition, because competition is the disinfectant of corruption. Here, you don't think about appointing an idiot, not because Americans are intrinsically more moral, it's because you don't want to lose the competition. If the University of Chicago, we don't appoint an idiot because we don't want to lose the competition with Stanford and Harvard. Actually, with Harvard and Stanford, they already lost. But anyway.
I object.
The other one thing about just competition, etc., what you say is correct, that if we do have the yearly evaluation, the idiots go away.
It is.
Who makes the evaluation?
Who evaluates the evaluators? That's exactly the problem.
Sorry, let's go on with a little bit of order. There is one gentleman there, and then there are three more questions.
Right. Before Luigi said his penultimate comment about his investing from science and investing in tourism, I was going to say I was totally in agreement with him. So let's remain to the first part of the thought. I mean, the idea that we really have to invest in culture the next generation. And I can provide you with this experience. I split my time between Yale University and the University of Milano, which means that I'm in contact with students there and in Italy. And I talk to students in New Haven as well as in Milano. And I can notice the differences, the drive that they have in US to succeed and to do all is needed, and the sort of more passive attitude that they have in Milano. And when I talk to the students in Milano, there are two kinds of students. The first kind, it's a very little percentage, just want to get out of the system. So what they're going to ask me is, how do I get out? Do you want to study or do research? No, I want to go and work in the United States. The other 98%, they're just passive. You know, they don't even know what to ask. So I did the following experiment. I bought 2 books from the president of Yale University, Rich Levine, who really collected his talks. They're so inspiring. They talk about competition. They talk about higher education. They talk about taking and giving back and so on and so forth. And I gave it to them. I gave it to the representative of the students and said, now you read this, then we'll meet again. And you tell me, because you don't even know what to ask. You don't even know what to pretend for the system. You have to know what you are. You have to ask from your professor, and that's the only way you can get it. And I was so surprised when, after a while, they came back to me and they said, we read it, and so, oh, very interesting. So that's it? Well, it's going to be difficult to apply here. So why is it going to be difficult to apply here? Well, the culture. I said, but why? Tell me more. And we're going to have a scheduled meeting with the whole students and talk about this and question and answer. But I had the feeling that behind is competition. Okay, they are afraid of competition. They are afraid of risking. They are afraid of what the president of Yale University says. You know, that you have to compete. You have to be driven to go on and so forth. So again, it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing that they are taught at the Liceo. We attended the same high school, Luigi. And this is where we have to fight. And another thing we have to fight, and I'm going to quote a line from Giampaolo Pansa recently in the Corriere della Sera. He wrote, italiani cinici quanto basta, indifferenti al bene comune, ammiratori dei furbi e sprezzanti dei coerenti. Io credo che, I believe this is the basic cultural difficulties that we are facing. And we can only do that by talking to the students, being open, and let them know what they need to expect from us.
There are 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. Sorry, but it's hard to keep. No, there was somebody else before. Yes.
Can I?
I am in a unique position that I have a laboratory in Rome, working, active, and I work in the United
Can I
States.
interrupt you? There was another gentleman before. Sorry, but let's.
No, we can do ladies first. It's fine. I can wait 2 minutes.
She comes. She's number 4 in this upgrade list.
So I love up.
3 other people. Sorry, madam. I apologize, but let's try to.
So
play
I'll
by the rules.
shall I take the upgrade? I'll take the upgrade to seat 1. So it seems to me, from what I'm hearing, that innovation is a direct result of investment in education and in research. I think we all agree, we more or less all agree on this. Education and research in most of the Western world is a political decision, how much money we put into it. And it seems to me that worldwide, not just Italy, we're going through a moment of dramatic crisis in which the political class we have selected do not understand the importance of putting money in education and in research. Let it be the United States or Italy or Hungary or Greece, it's the same. So how do we break it? We don't invest in education, we'll never select a political class that is able to understand the value of education and research, and then we break in innovation. To me, it seems like it's a catastrophic crisis that all we can do is move to China. So how do we do it?
There is a gentleman there and a gentleman there, and then the lady that has a laboratory in Rome.
May I?
Please go ahead.
So, my name is Pasquale Mendola. I'm 26 and I'm from University of Bologna, but Arizona State University. I'm an environmental engineer. So I have a few questions because I've been listening a lot. So anyway, on the economical point of view, I don't understand why Italy cannot focus on those fields and sectors that made Italy 30, 40 years ago. But we are trying to go and move in another kind of view. Like you talked about bringing the Silicon Valley model and applying that to Italy. I don't understand why we are trying to copy other countries and why not to focus on our own strength and move forward to that, on that. For example, Italy is famous for cheese, wine. You talked about fashion, how many other things. Hollywood, we saw the video clip from, they tried to give anyway, they're in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, wherever they are. There are some sectors that are not really considered right now. And we are trying to go and work in other kinds of sectors, other things that Italy probably is not really the best. The other things that I've been listening, one of the reasons why I left Italy, it was because I was in Iceland and I was doing my bachelor degree, and I was in a kind of internship, and somebody asked me, what do you think? What do you think about this thing, this project? And it took me, I was surprised because in Italy, the way that I've been taught, it was stay in the room, don't touch anything, don't talk. There is a lack of communications between professors, between scholars and companies. What instead here I found coming and working in the United States, I came with my own idea, and there were people around me that they were willing to listen what I was talking about. And together, we have been able to get money from national organization, and they funded us. So we're not talking about dreams, but I just saw that going a little bit abroad, and you showed data about Finland, Sweden. Those are countries that, since high school, there is a communication between the kids and the professors. People mention that they have kids in the United States. If in the United States in high school and you do the chemistry project and you're good, or you're coming with something totally new, you have people from university, they come home and they tell you, do you want to come and study with us? We will pay everything. So I learned the word patent here in the United States. okay? Because I was not able to understand what was it before, and I'm not an economist, I'm an engineer. It's something that in Italy is missing, and I believe that if there would be, since high school, college, more willing to understand, not invest in education at this point, but believing in education, I think that probably, it would not be the solution, but at the least would be a starting point. That's it.
I like very much the idea of believing in education. I think it's very good. I think that we have room for two more interventions. One is that gentleman there and the lady that we have interrupted earlier on. And after that, we will have a small final round here at the table.
Thank you so much. My name is Lorenzo Giacani. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Washington in Seattle. And I agree that Italy needs innovation and startup companies that are sort of a womb where innovation is born. And I know that startup companies are often born out of like a brilliant idea. And that brilliant ideas oftentimes are born inside universities. So I was wondering, what is your opinion about trying to implementing within Italian universities real centers for commercializations, like something that can work as an incubator for somebody that has a bright idea. For instance, if I have a bright idea that I want to make into a product, I could start figuring out if I have to go out to a venture capitalist and pitching my idea and see if they like it and so forth. But if the university had sort of like this startup incubator, I could go there and meet with a patent attorney, people that are in commerce and so forth, and see if that can create, if they can help me create this startup company. I don't know if this exists in Italy. I don't know if it would be well received, because the issue is that, of course, if you go to an incubator that is within a university, the intellectual property of the tool or the thing that you make your product will still probably belong to the university. So some people might be discouraged because they want the intellectual property because, of course, they make more money out of it. But I would like to know what is your opinion, if this is being done in Italy, if you think it should be done, and if you think that as ISNA, we should.
We will answer. We will answer that question.
Okay. How does this works? One thing is that I was saying that I am a lab still working in Rome, and I have moved also in the States, and I have an operational here. So I am very well familiar with what you said. Let's stop saying how things are done here, and let's see how they are done there. And my own experience tells a lot that agrees with what I heard. In Italy, I do innovation, because they leave me there. They don't ask me what I do. They don't want to know what my results are. I have freedom. I have a freedom with very few money and very little money to do very innovative search and to do exploration. The problems arise when I want to go from the proof of principle to the R&D. And the reason that the problem arises, because I go from my own salary and my own time and 30,000 euros, that's how much it costs to do a decent, innovative project in an Italian university, to the 200,000, 300,000 euros that you need to start scaling up. And this already gives you.
Which field?
I do in biomedical research. I do research in biomedical research, and I do translational medicine.
30,000 euros.
30,000 euros. If you are very careful, and we are bright in Italy, isn't it?
Of course.
It's good. So at that point, it comes the problem of the paternalism. Because to do and to go to the kind of money that you need for the R&D, then you have to go to approval to a higher level. And then there are considerations like how to protect jobs, how to create jobs, etc., that decide instead of innovation. But I would like to say then that I put myself into the reason, how do I feel in this adventure in the United States? Do I feel like a failure of the Italian system or not? And I must say that I don't feel like a failure of the Italian system at all. And the reason why is that if I look around Mount Sinai, there are 5 medical doctors above me that are from Great Britain, that couldn't find a job in Great Britain. Great Britain prefers to put in their medical system people from India. And this doctor doesn't feel like they have been expelled by Great Britain. So when I think how things should be done there, then my real question is, why can't we produce 5 doctors that are better than these British so that we will have 5 Italians here? Why don't we improve the education so that we see this as an opportunity to get more people abroad and to stop crying aloud about ourselves, about why this Italian system fails? Because let's face it, the Italian system is not failing at all. You know, it always starts on the verge of crying. It's since I was at the new university that at the beginning of my university that I'm hearing everything is failing, everything is failing. We are going to implode in 3 years from now. 30 years have passed.
Maybe this is part of the Italian culture to always complain, and this is one thing that might have to be changed. But thank you. I think there are many questions on the table. I think that we are going to close. Thank you for your contribution. I think it was lively and useful.